Welcome back to Government Security Training. In this module, we want to discuss an architectural overview and what we call the structural problem. We want to look at two perspectives on this, one from Dan Geer, another from Jimmy Kuo. So Dan Geer wrote an introduction or foreword to a colleague of mine's book, and in this foreword he says, "We are many, they are few, we are losing, they are winning, and the reason is structural." Now here he says we, and he means the good guys, the people who own, operate, and defend the networks. And when he says they, he means the bad guys, the attackers, the hackers. We are losing, they are winning, and the reason is structural. So what he means, let's go back and look at a little bit of the history of the way applications on the internet actually work. In the beginning, we had static web pages where the content of the page was programmed in by the developer, and it didn't change until the web developer actually came along and rewrote the page. This is boring. We want to interact with our web applications. So they came up with a device called the Common Gateway Interface and used a glue language called Perl, Practical Extraction and Reporting Language, to allow communications between the web server and a database. This way, the database could control the content and the user experience could change. And we secured this by inserting a firewall between the user on the internet, the bad guys and the bad stuff, and the protected asset, in this case the web server. The firewall controlled the access by policy, and we used the secure sockets layer to encrypt the communications so that the communication between the client and the server was private. So circa 1995, the state of the art was using CGI and Perl, and we secured that with a firewall and SSL. Later, we enhanced the web server with Java server pages and active server pages. We introduced session and data and pooling, but you'll notice that our security picture didn't change. We're still using SSL and a network firewall to control access and secure the communications. Later, we added an additional layer in the back end. So an application server behind the web server to incorporate business logic. We did this with enterprise Java beans and various other components, talking to more than one database in many cases. But again, our security didn't change, still network firewalls and secure sockets layer. And as I later enhanced this with multiple layers on the back end, you can see that our security doesn't really change. Perhaps additional firewalls between the layers, but nothing else. And as our picture gets more and more complex, the security simply doesn't change. Today, we're in the mobile world, starting around 2009, and we need to rethink the way we're doing security. The problem is we're trying to fight a low-level, primitive problem like a microbe with primitive technology like a suit of armor, and it just doesn't work anymore. The reason is it's a structural problem. We have to build security in at the lowest levels from the beginning of the development life cycle. Now, another point of view, and I won't read this to you, is from my friend Jimmy Kuo. And he's asked about this, and he says, you know, it's a lot like cops and robbers in the real world. The police catch the robbers, and they're remarkably effective, but we don't normally read about the police catching the robbers in the newspaper. What you read about are failures where the robber actually manages to make a robbery, to break into the bank, to get away with what he's after. And this is just human nature. So we need to keep this in mind and educate ourselves, our peers, and our bosses that this is simply the way of the world. We can be successful as security professionals. We can prevent the bad guys from getting to our assets, and we will seldom be recognized for doing so. But let one hacker gain access to one record and be public about it, and he will be on the front page of the paper. Thank you.